The rain came down like the sky was tearing open, hammering the roof of Mara Thompson's old blue pickup truck. The wipers screeched back and forth, barely clearing enough of the windshield for her to see the road winding through the outskirts of Briar Ridge, a quiet town where storms always hit hardest. Her server's uniform clung cold to her skin, still damp from a long shift at Holly's roadside cafe. All she wanted was heat, silence, and sleep. That's when she spotted it. A sleek dark sedan tilted on the shoulder, hazards blinking faintly through the sheets of rain, its hood spewing thin wisps of steam. And next to it, an elderly white man, soaked straight through his suit, bracing himself against the fender. No umbrella. No signal. No chance. Before we continue, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep bringing these emotional and inspiring stories to life. Also, tell us where you're watching from. We love to know how far our stories travel. Mara hesitated, her fingers tightening on the wheel. It was the kind of night people pretended they didn't see trouble. But she saw the way the man's knees trembled. How his shaking hand struggled with a useless phone. She sighed, pulled over, and cracked her window. "Sir, are you all right out here?" she called out. He turned, startled by her voice slicing through the storm. "My car, it died. Tow lines are down. I'm not sure where I even turned." "Get in before you freeze," she said, popping the passenger lock. He didn't move for a moment, uncertain, weighing trust against fear, but finally he nodded and climbed inside, dripping onto the worn cloth seat. The heater barely functioned, but Mara cranked it anyway. Slowly, the shaking eased from his hands. "You didn't have to stop," he murmured. "I guess I did," she said gently. "Couldn't leave somebody's granddad drowning out here." For the first time, he laughed, just barely. His name was Arthur Lowell. He'd been driving home from a late meeting when the storm swallowed him whole. Mara didn't ask questions. She just drove, guided by failing headlights and habit. In her tiny studio, she handed him a towel, gave him her only blanket, and warmed instant soup on her electric coil. He insisted he'd be fine, but she ignored him. When he finally fell asleep on her couch, she sat by the window, watching the rain soften into drizzle. She felt calm for the first time that day. Before dawn, she left for work. The couch was empty. The blanket folded. A small note sat on the table. "Thank you for treating me like a human being." She tucked it into her pocket. She had no idea their paths were about to collide again, violently. The morning turned cold and sharp. Mara jogged up the hill toward the cafe, shoes squelching with water. She was 10 minutes late, hair damp, breath ragged. Inside, the scent of frying eggs and burnt coffee wrapped around her. Her manager, Rick Donnelly, spun the moment she stepped through the door. "Oh look," he sneered loudly enough for customers to hear, "the Queen finally arrives. Think the world waits for you, Mara?" "I'm sorry, Rick." "Spare me," he snapped. "Owner's coming today and you stroll in soaked like a stray dog." Customers stared. A few whispered. One snorted a laugh. "I helped someone stranded in the storm," she tried to explain softly. "An older man." Rick slashed his hand through the air. "Good deeds don't pay rent." "You're late." Again. Her heart thudded. "I've worked here for years. And now you don't." He jabbed a finger toward the exit. "Apron. Now." The room went silent. Even the grill hissed quieter. Handshaking, she loosened her apron and set it on the counter. She refused to cry, not here, not for him. As she walked out into the drizzle, a woman whispered, "She's too kind for this place." Rick straightened his tie, muttering, "Perfect timing. Last thing we need is charity cases making us look sloppy." But outside, someone else was watching. A dark sedan eased past the cafe. A window slid down just enough to reveal Arthur Lowell's eyes. He watched Mara disappear down the street. The note she'd given him sat on his passenger seat. "So this is where she works," he murmured. He stepped on the gas. Everything was about to change. By midday the cafe buzzed. Staff whispered nervously, no one had ever met the mysterious owner. At exactly 12:30, the bell chimed. A tall, silver-haired man stepped inside wearing a charcoal coat and polished shoes. His presence softened every sound in the room. Rick hurried forward, practically bowing. "Mr. Lowell, welcome, sir. We're running perfectly today, spotless and efficient." But Arthur Lowell's attention drifted to the empty spot where Mara always served, to the silence hanging heavily behind the counter. "Where's the young woman who worked yesterday?" he asked calmly. Rick blinked. "Oh, or Mara? Fired her. Chronic lateness. Bad attitude. You don't want that representing your business." Arthur turned to the cook. "Is that true?" "No, sir," the cook mumbled. "She's the best we had." Rick's smile faltered. "People exaggerate. I run a tight ship." Arthur stepped closer. "You fired her?" "This morning." "Yes, sir." "For cause?" Arthur nodded once. "Call her back. Now." Rick's face drained. "Yes, sir, that's not. Now." 5 minutes later, Mara walked in, confused and timid. Arthur's expression softened instantly. "Miss Thompson," he said gently, "you helped me last night with no expectation of anything in return. You showed compassion when you had nothing to spare." Whispers rippled through the room. "You represent the heart I want for this place." Effective immediately, you are reinstated as co-manager. Rick choked on his own breath. "You can't, she's..." Arthur cut him off sharply. "You wanted to impress me, Mr. Donnelly. Congratulations, you succeeded, in the worst possible way." The staff applauded quietly. Mara stood frozen, tears glowing at the edge of her eyes. Arthur just smiled. "You gave me kindness in a storm. Now I return it with dignity." Weeks passed. Under Mara's leadership, the cafe changed. More customers. Warmer atmosphere. Happier staff. But Rick's bitterness simmered like something toxic left on low heat. His smile grew thinner. His eyes colder. Then the money started disappearing. Small amounts at first. Then larger. Mara checked the numbers herself, 3 times. It wasn't mistakes. Someone was trying to frame her. She went straight to Arthur. He listened quietly. "Do you know who?" "No," she said softly. "Not without proof." "Then we'll get it." By that evening, discreet cameras were installed. A private investigator arrived. No one else knew. Days passed. Then came the night the storm returned. The footage caught everything. Rick waiting. Opening her drawer. Taking bills. Swapping her register slip for a fake one. Whispering, "Let's see you talk your way out of this." The next morning, Arthur held a staff meeting. The investigator pressed play. Gasps. Silence. Rick's face collapsed. "That's edited," he shouted. "She's framing me." Arthur's voice cut sharp as cold steel. "You tried to destroy the woman who saved me." Two officers stepped inside. The cuffs snapped shut. Rick screamed as they led him out. But no one even looked at him. Six months later, the cafe felt reborn. A new sign gleamed above the door. Stormlight Cafe. Every seat stayed full. Not because of the food, but because of the story. Mara moved confidently between tables, guiding her team with quiet strength. The staff adored her. Customers loved her. Arthur sat in his usual booth, pride in his eyes. Reporters had written about her. The waitress who saved a stranger and ended up rebuilding a community. One evening, Arthur stood and called for everyone's attention. "This place runs on compassion," he said. And Mara reminded us what compassion looks like. He handed her an envelope. Effective immediately, Mara Thompson wasn't just co-manager. She was full partner. The cafe erupted into applause. Later that night, as she stepped outside for air, she saw a familiar figure across the street at a car wash. Rick. Hunched. Silent. A nobody in the mist. She approached calmly and handed him a sealed envelope. "What's this?" he muttered. "Your name's on it," she said simply. "Open it when you're ready." She walked away. Inside, Rick tore it open. A donation receipt. A small check written to a local charity, in his name. And beneath it, a handwritten note. "Everyone deserves a second chance. I got mine." Back at the cafe, Mara flipped the sign from closed to open. Morning sunlight spilled across the spotless counter. The first customer walked in. Mara smiled warmly. "Good morning. Welcome to Stormlight Cafe, where kindness is always on the menu. Thank you for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you more inspiring stories."